Tourism is not what it used to be. Destinations are increasingly dealing with climate disasters, overcrowding, higher prices. I'm going to break down 5 major shifts in tourism that I see coming for 2025 and what it means for your travels. Let's start with climate change. We've seen the major storms increasingly frequent, but also increasingly more aggressive in places that are more unexpected. And not only that, but it's also it's creating so much damage that places are having even trouble recovering faster. For example, Maui in Hawaii, right? It's still grappling to get tourism back. And I can even tell you, I've seen it firsthand this year. I was in Nashville back in May for a story. I was sent there on assignment by Bloomberg, and I did a whole feature on Asheville and how it's up and coming because of its Black Heritage Cultural Trail. 5 months later, major Hurricane Helene comes through North Carolina and unexpectedly batters the River Arts District side of Asheville and also mountainous parts in Western North Carolina at a level that has not been seen in decades. So literally there were people that I had met during my trip for my story. I texted them because I immediately thought of them, and they said, I was looking for an apartment because my house washed away, or I'm staying with a relative in Georgia because it's not safe to be where I am now at home. There's no water, there's no safety. People are walking around, just completely desperate. And I mean, just a lot of stories that are very harrowing. These are everyday people, and it could be any of us at any time. So I think that is definitely shifting tourism in a way that no one is even talking about. A lot of people do destination coverage or they vlog about travel destinations, but we don't hear about the climate impacts that are happening in that backyard of the place they're visiting. And I think that's something that all of us, including myself, should do more often. I think it's important. I think also that you should be wary of trends in the travel industry. Coolcations, obviously more and more people are avoiding hot areas because of the extreme heat in the summer, and they're choosing now to go to places like, say, Scandinavia. I'm talking about American travelers. And even in Africa, there are cooler destinations that are wonderful to visit in the summer, such as Zambia. I really want to encourage you to think about not just ditching the places that have been through disasters, but going back and pumping, your tourism dollars into those communities that are rebuilding and getting back on their feet, because they need it even more than ever after a major disaster. I mean, I think even of Valencia, Spain, where there were those disastrous floods, and Zambia declared a drought emergency this year. And the country runs majority, I think more than 80% on hydroelectric power. So it's also affecting the electricity supply. So there are all of these things that you need to be more aware of as climate impacts tourism. Don't just ditch the places. Remember that tourism is not just about a vacation, it's an economy, and it's also about solidarity and understanding other people over tourism. Now, we've heard so much about it in the last summer. Many of us remember pictures of locals were protesting and they were squirting those water guns at the tourists. It's not that people hate tourists. Yes, there's rising anti-tourism sentiment, but you have to understand why. For many, many years, mass tourism has changed the character of some of these iconic places, such as Barcelona and Venice. The numbers have completely become disproportional to the benefits that the place is receiving, that the communities and the residents of that place are receiving. They're literally watching the character of their home change. Short-term rentals took over apartments, and so there's less and less housing for locals. In fact, they can't even afford it, even if they wanted to, because prices have gone up. And governments have not presented any viable solutions to deal with this inequity. Over-tourism is really about inequity. No one wants to really talk about this out loud, but it's true. Mass tourism brings benefits for multinationals, for governments in terms of taxes and hotels, but it doesn't bring in, and this is why there's been issues in these places, it has not improved the lifestyle of the residents. That is not fair, and you do not want to be part of a system that encourages that. So, for example, also in the Canary Islands of Spain, we heard about people who were sleeping in their cars. I mean, this is while luxury resorts are going up, and more investment is coming in. But where is the money going? This is always my question with tourism is, where is your money going, right? So it's important to think about not completely avoiding these places, because there's also shaming going on in the travel industry, which I think is ridiculous. You're seeing people shame folks for wanting to go to bucket list destinations. The term bucket list is not the problem. The problem is, what do you do once you are in those destinations? Are you just following what everyone else is doing and crowding places? I mean, is it okay to see, the central St. Mark's Square in Venice? Of course, it's iconic. There's no other place like it. So of course you want to glimpse it. But then what do you do once you're there? Do you stay there and then patronize some of the non-locally owned businesses around it? Or do you visit when there's no cruise ships so that the museums are not overcrowded? There's little decisions like that that you can still make while visiting those destinations. You're not going to tell me that somebody who saved money for so long and has wanted to go to Barcelona or Venice or some other iconic place, maybe Rio de Janeiro and the Christ Redeemer statue, and then you tell them, no, it's overcrowded, you shouldn't be going. I don't think that's fair. I think the burden is on the governments to inform tourists and to give them solutions to visit in a way that is less impactful, to still come over and support local businesses. And so, I mean, I got to tell you, I did a story that published yesterday for Bloomberg on my own bucket list destinations for 2025. It's a wish list. It's the same thing. We all have places we want to see because we have certain connections to those places. And I've explained in the story why I want to go to those places, but it's not just about the beauty and the scenery. It's also about the culture and supporting local businesses while I'm there and signing up for community-based experiences. Some people think it's hard to find. It's actually not. It just takes more research. And you can see one of my previous videos that I've done with tips on how to travel more consciously and how to choose those experiences. I'm happy to dive into that further if you want. But, it's not about the bucket list and it's not about doing what everyone else is doing, but it's going to those same destinations and seeing what else is around those iconic spots and spreading the wealth, spreading the goods, the good part of tourism. So no, I don't think over-tourism is going away in 2025. I think anti-tourism sentiment is going to remain in some of those European destinations as long as there are no solutions introduced. Venice's, €5 entry fee is a slap on the wrist. I mean, it's like, and some residents have told me that it's actually quite offensive, and I agree, because it's like treating Venice like a theme park, that you're buying a ticket to enter. That's not the solution. I think they're going to increase it a little bit, but even so, those are just cosmetic changes. But we're seeing a lot more destinations imposing rules on when you can visit, how late you can stay, depending on whether you're an overnight or day trip or tourist. That's over-tourism in a nutshell. Now, a green shoot from all of this over-tourism is that I see lesser known or lesser exposed, if you will, destinations gaining more attention. For example, the Seychelles in Africa, which has long been a tourist destination for those who are, in that side of the world, in the Middle East, as well as in Africa. It's a beautiful, beautiful tropical archipelago with plenty of culture, Creole culture. It's very diverse, multicultural population there. And now it's really gaining attraction. Why? Because some of the big brands are going there, including Cheval Blanc and some of the other luxurious, hotel hospitality brands. I really hope that with these changes of smaller known places in the West becoming more and more popular means that it will trickle down to communities. You always have to consider the impact on communities when tourism starts to grow. And I'm not sure what these destinations are doing. I know that Seychelles is increasingly exposing more of its cultural activities, and it's creating new websites to drive people to have, cultural encounters with locals. I think that is going to be the greatest challenge that these lesser known but growing destinations are going to have to grapple with. Greenland is getting its first major international airport opening, and which means that big jets will be able to go there. And it's, of course, appearing on all the lists of what will happen. What will be the impact of people on the environment, the infrastructure, on the communities there. Having said all of this, the cost of travel is also going to change. You're going to see more and more countries imposing tourism taxes to make up for sustainability issues and to ensure that the environment is protected, and it goes into all of these community projects. So they say, what I always say is, show me where the money's going. It's great to have a sustainability fee in the way that Bhutan has, for example, but, is it going to be transparent? The Galapagos fee, which has recently doubled, I think, are we going to see where those funds are going? And if not, why not? But either way, it's going to mean more costs for the traveler. And that is something that we can expect for 2025. Last but not least, I want to talk about digital nomadism. I think is continuing. By the way, this is not a new thing. It was around decades ago. I started doing it 10 years ago. So imagine it's been around for a long time, but it's a lot more visible. A lot more countries are obviously offering digital nomad visas, the latest being, for example, Kenya. But the question is always, okay, you're attracting all of these digital nomads with funds, but where is all of that money going to go? If these professionals are going to funnel it into the local economy and into local businesses, patronize local businesses while they're there, great. But are they going to? And who's really monitoring what's going to happen? And what are some of the tools and some of the conveniences that you're going to provide so that these digital nomads stay, as opposed to, give up after a month and realize that, hey, the Wi-Fi is not that great after all, or something like that, So there's a whole structure that goes with bringing over digital nomads. I think it's promising for African destinations. It would be a great avenue to bring in more tourism revenue, to boost, economic development, more opportunities for entrepreneurs. But it remains to be seen whether it will be a seamless process and whether there's information shared about how these digital nomads can best support communities and not push them out and not increase prices in neighborhoods, and make sure that locals are able to thrive in their own home. To wrap up, tourism in 2025, I see is going to be filled with more challenges, but also opportunities. And I think that by understanding all of these 5 issues that I predict will be top of mind, will help you navigate places better, make better choices in terms of destinations, and be more aware from a global standpoint of what is happening around the world and where tourism sentiment lies. You can travel smarter, more responsibly, and truly make a difference in the places that you're going to just by the choices that you're making. For more advice, I highly recommend you watch my previous video on responsible conscious travel. Tell me what you think about travel in 2025. Where are you going? What are you most concerned about? And leave it in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe so that you get notified every time there's a new video on Sundays at 9 a.m. Eastern. I want to wish all of you a happy new year. Thank you for being here on my channel. I'm excited to see you all here interested in the tourism industry. Have a good one, guys. See you next time.